we welcome you all most warmly to our service. The tradition of remembrance is very strong at Christ's Hospital, as is our tradition of gratitude to those whom we remember. Only yesterday, our school band had the privilege of marching at the front of the procession of the new Lord Mayor as he went through the streets of the City of London, bringing to mind not only our present links with the city, but our foundation there in 1552, by the order of the King Edward VI, and by the action of Sir Richard Dobbs, the then Lord Mayor. His portrait hangs here at Horsham, to which we moved in 1902, and underneath it is written, "Christ's Hospital erected was a passing deed of pity." I always interpret those words as meaning a surpassing deed of pity or charity or generosity. It certainly doesn't mean transient or temporary, for here we are, 436 years later, and still primarily supported by the same spirit. At Christ's Hospital, Remembrance Day too is something which is surpassing. We still maintain the tradition of the 2-minute silence, and normally the whole school would assemble around the War Memorial in tribute. Today, we shall amend the form, but not the spirit of that corporate act, by asking 4 representatives from each house to leave the chapel and come with the wreath bearers to the memorial. We shall perpetuate a tradition of our own, which arose when, on one occasion, the scholars spontaneously took off their poppies and planted them in the grass of the quadrangle. And you will observe another tradition, for whenever we sing the Nunc Dimittis, the senior Grecian turns a page of our Book of Remembrance. There are many facets to remembrance. Today, the Second World War is personified for us by Group Captain Leonard Cheshire, VC, who is to preach for us. During the war, he worked with Barnes Wallis of Bouncing Bomb fame. Barnes Wallis, who was a pupil here and later our treasurer, and who gave his international prizes in order to enable other children, especially those with RAF connections, to be educated here. And from the First World War, we have the writings of Edmund Blunden, also a pupil here, in whose poetry and prose we can read of the lives and emotions and deaths of his generation. Thus we have direct access to the courage, the skills, the pain and the losses of 2 world wars. That is more than enough to give meaning to our remembrance. But there are further points, for we are a school community built around need and generosity, loss and renewal, sacrifice and repayment. One little girl said to me, "Remembrance Day makes me think of my dad. And when I remember him, I think of all the families who have lost somebody, but I think of the many people who do good things for others."
I think that having a remembrance service for people of our age group is really important, because I don't think the young people of today really realise what happened back then. I also think that it's really good the way we have a 2-minute silence so that we can remember them and all those soldiers that died for us, and we never really got to know about them or how they felt or about their families. I think this is a really good time to remember them.
I've read some of Wilfred Owen's poetry on the First World War, and that inspired me to write my poem on using the sort of metaphors. And I also read a poem by Hilaire Belloc, whose son died during the First War, and that was a poem to him.
The First World War in its own way has left a mark on the school, because in every day room there is a placard listing the people who died, and in my particular house there's about 30 names up there. And a parallel that was to me once is that it's like the entire first 15 rugby team, say, going off, and half of them not coming back. These are people who you'll have recognised in, say, games or in school or in chapel. And they would go away and they would simply never be seen again.
My grandfather was in the Second World War, and I know that my grandmother thought that he was maybe missing or dead in the war, and he came back, which I'm very pleased about, but I know that she felt very bad, and I know she cared for him a lot, and he's now still alive, which I'm very pleased about. And I think it reminds everybody who lost people or cared for people in the war how they can remember their lost loved ones.
And some seed fell. They lay, explosions in their heads. They screamed, gun firing. Then their eyes were wide and seeing death. A trench, 1,000 men. July the 1st, in Flanders fields, a nation shed its blood. Our blossom, plucked to die in war, for 3 black miles of mud. Our future seed, our tender buds, our flowers who upright stood. The innocent, cut down in bloom, now faded for our good. With awe, with horror, we recall the fields now 5 months dead, as, while those flowers lay trampled, strewn, a poppy showed its head.